So a lot of business owners, when they plan for the coming year, we spend most of our time thinking about what can we do differently. But there's two parts to it. First, you have your goal. Next, you look at your numbers in the past, right? Whether is it in system, whether is it in people, whether is it in your plan, right? The last year leaves a lot of proof for success, which is typically coming from our failures. Alright, welcome to the Shannon Goh Podcast, where we discuss mindset, sales, and scaling strategies for business owners and aspiring entrepreneurs. Now, my name is Shannon Goh, and I've been in business for about 10 years now. We have scaled multiple different businesses. We have brought in over $40 million in the info space, marketing agencies, and also scaled company past 8 figures in terms of revenue. So today, what I have with me is none other than Kwan, my marketing manager, who's been through an entrepreneurship journey himself. He has went through a few startups himself and had multiple different experiences seeing the ins and outs of business systems that we do in our company, right? So now with that being said, we want to be able to go in depth for goal setting for businesses or for you today, all right? And in fact, this entire podcast is actually initiated by none other than Kwan himself, who wanted to push boundaries. So Kwan, what have you prepared for today, and why did you decide on goal setting?
Yeah, so I think when it comes to New Year, right, I've seen a lot of businesses, they get very, very inspired. They set new goals for themselves, they set new objectives, they set new KPIs, Yeah, and it's always very inspiring. New year, new me, new business. So what happens is I've noticed and I've observed a lot of business owners, speaking to them, a few of them over the years, is they listen to podcasts. They learn from people out there on abstract goal setting frameworks like the SMART goals, the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 frameworks. I'm somebody who had practiced those before. Yet, one of the things that I've noticed as well is that many of us give up halfway. And sometimes on hindsight, after reflection, I think it's really not our fault. Because the difficulties behind keeping towards our goals while still keeping margins healthy, meeting revenue goals, making sure that we go through the entire sales, execution, operations, logistics, whatever it is. I think it's hard for us to keep track of the overall macro goal that we set for ourselves at the start of the year. It's very abstract. And you're constantly like a duck, right? Struggling to just stay afloat. So I think the reason why I wanted to do this podcast is, Shannon, I know that having been part of this company for quite some time, you're somebody that always constantly meets your revenue and your profit goals that you set for yourselves and ourselves year after year after year. So that's what I'm really, really proud of and proud for. And I feel that more people can learn from your sharing on how you make sure that these things are kept through, followed through, and enforced. So yeah, that's the reason why I talk about goal setting.
I think definitely cash is king, especially for business owners. You see, year in year, why do I hit my goals is because I believe that, if those of you entrepreneurs who are watching this, if you're going to work so hard, you're going to scale your company, it's obviously for being able to either do bigger things or to be able to make more money in terms of cash and bank, right? So I think a lot of business, when in our pursuit for scaling, we lose our margins, we become even more invested in terms of time and effort into our business, and we have no sorts of other interests or hobby or impact that we're making outside of the work that we do. And, that's not what I want, right? So I think having a year-on-year goal setting definitely keep me in place, keep me grounded. So, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, Shannon, very curious. You consulted a couple of business owners. You help a few business owners set their goals, help them scale, keep them accountable week after week, right? So can we talk a little bit more about why most business owners who set lofty goals or even set goals in general fail to meet them?
I think number one is lack of clarity about what they really want. Does it really spark that excitement and joy to innately want to pursue that goal? Because any type of big goals, you need hard sweat and maybe a little bit of tears, right? I'm talking about stretching yourself, breaking out the comfort zone consistently, changing bad habits, right? Evolving yourself. Now, there's a lot of work. And there's a lot of work if you have no interest to do so. You would not last through the year to hit your goals. So I think number one is definitely lack of clarity of what they truly want and just plucking that target just because maybe someone has tell you to, or you feel good about it, or you just want to put it there to keep yourself productive, right? So I think that's number one reason. Maybe, but in terms of other variation of reasons, it also could be not understanding what they want to do with the outcome. So I think the outcome is what is their goal, right? Maybe to make certain money, right? To make certain money, to have better health, right? But for what? What are you going to do with all that money? What are you going to do with all that time? Why is that so significant for you, right? Understanding what to do with the results that you have gotten, especially money, also keeps you very motivated, because money is not everything, but it's a great vehicle to get you to where you want to be in anything. So that's my thoughts. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so just to explore that a little bit further, right? Why do you think business owners lack clarity about what they want? I think it's quite a simple concept, right? Like, what do I want to be able to achieve? Yeah, but how does it come into play? Like, they don't have the understanding of what they truly want, and they set these goals for themselves. How come there's this incongruence in there?
I mean, I can only share from my experience, right? I think there's a lot of, how do I put it? There's a lot of conversations around, like, what's our purpose? What's our calling, right? What are we passionate about that we want to give our all, right? It's always that on and on and on, like, what's your ikigai, right? And I think if you really look at it, it doesn't take overnight to find your ikigai. It doesn't take overnight to find what you're truly passionate in, and what you're passionate always changes as well. So, coming back to being able to know what we really, really want is also to go on what we call an exploration journey of being lost, of being confused, of being adventurous, of trying all sorts of things. So if you're someone who is always stuck in a comfort zone of doing the same thing in business, stagnant for that 3-5 years, not doing anything different, it's very common for you to kind of lose that spark, right? So that's why, for me, in my experience, I believe in exploration. So every single year in our business, which you are very much involved in, we dabble a lot into exploration of R&D. Like, every single year we have new things that we R&D on. I think the reason is also to be able to find what is it that we are continuously, as we evolve, what are we very passionate in, or what am I extremely passionate in, that is going to propel me to want to push the business towards that direction, right? So in short, a lack of exploration and reflection. A lot of people don't spend exploration and reflection. So if we don't have enough reflection, then maybe we don't know where and what we want and don't want.
I see. I think this is a very interesting topic. One of the key person that I look up to, right, Shannon, and I do think we share this interest, is Ray Dalio. He talks about pain plus reflection equals to progress.
Is
You know
it?
what I mean?
He does that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for me, yeah. Yeah, so for me, exploration to me involved a lot of pain. I didn't know what exactly I wanted. I mean, for my own business journey back in the past, I didn't really know what I wanted. All I know is that I have expectations for myself. People around me, within my circle, have expectations for me, because I've always upheld myself as a perceived that kind of person, that kind of guy. Yeah, then my family's expectations for me as well. So I chase after a particular goal without clarity, without really knowing whether this is what I want or not. So all I chased after was money. You know what I mean? Over time, it was so unsustainable for me. I crashed, I burned. Yeah, I went downhill, and I decided that this business is not for me. I exited the business, true. But I exited the business in a way that it's really more like, in my opinion, giving up, because I just didn't know. I just knew, like, I found out that this wasn't what I wanted from there. So I agree with you, Shannon. Exploration to identify what kind of experiences you have, what you like, what you don't like. Then reflection, really understanding why you like it, what you don't like about it. Then from there, you know exactly how to progress from there.
I think
That's super cool.
perhaps another
Yeah.
thing is also, don't make our work our sole identity, because that's not us, right? I think that I've seen many high achievers, or where their work is their identity, and after work, they don't know. Like, let's say if one day you lose your job, you lose what you do, and then suddenly, who am I? What do I do? Right? And my point here is that work doesn't define all of us. And the second part is that there's many different pillars that constitutes us. I'm talking about our hobbies. I'm talking about our relationship with people, our connection with people, our health, right? Do we take good care of ourselves, right? What kind of impact do we give to people outside of work, right? And then the work itself, which is a lot of fulfillment. I love what I do. My husband called me a workaholic. But I think many people miss out on that, which is why I preach a lot to our managers. I'm sure you know that.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, so on the topic of fulfillment, right, Shannon, I think it's sometimes a bit hard to be kept motivated throughout the entire year. 365 days, it's a lot of things going on. And with the goals that we've set for ourselves, sometimes it's a bit more difficult to keep motivated throughout the entire year. Sometimes we as humans, we have a lot of narratives in our head, a lot of negative thoughts that makes us feel a bit more unmotivated and becomes more like a cycle, right? I don't hit my goals, I get unmotivated. I don't hit my goals, I get unmotivated. In the end, nothing really gets done. How do you counteract all of these kind of symptoms that we have, right, as people?
First of all, is to reframe the way that we think. I think just like what you say things like, I don't hit my goals, I don't hit my goals. But in the pursuit of a big goal, you're always not hitting your goals to the last, right? So, but it's always the minor goals and the minor progress that we make that makes us reach our big goal. And whatever plan that we have, set out to hit that big goal, sometimes that plan is not, or maybe all the time, it's not going to go according to our plan. But the point is, it's just like sales from A to B, right? It goes through all the curves and you still get to your goal. So a good way that, in my experience, would be guided reflection. I think guided reflection that we do internally keeps you grounded. So for example, reviewing, number one, have a framework. We can talk a little bit about that later. Number one, have a framework. Number two, reflect upon your progress. What is the things you made progress on? What is the things that you did not make progress on? Like, what is the next steps then? What's your learning from there? Because if the faster we are in able to learn from our mistakes, whether is it to cut loss fast, whether is it to evolve fast, whether is it to re-strategize fast, then we will inevitably hit our goals. But most people in this chase for this business success, the question is always how often do we even audit our goals and reflect on our goals and actually keep to our goals? Like, you set a new year, new me resolution. When's the last time you look at it? Last year, right? And say, oh, that was my goal previously. And when was the time people actually reflected on it? But when we don't reflect on it, that means that we don't actually necessarily treat that goal very seriously. Yeah.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So reflecting on it is something you treat very seriously. Then how often do you do this reflection of your goals?
I do that as and when. I made it a practice this year to, first of all, I'm always aware about my bottom line. Like my bottom line in terms of what is very significant for me that I must and I want to accomplish this year. What's the one big thing? Once I have that in my mind, sometimes I put it on my screen, sometimes during my reflection, I'll go back to the same point again. I rarely change my goal in terms of that, right? And then I just write down all the things that's in my mind. We call it a brain dump. Brain dump is actually a decluttering technique, part of a decluttering technique, because as someone that we want to achieve a lot of things, right? You need to first brain dump all the things that you have in a notebook and an iPad, right? So that's what I do first. When I do that, I have tons of things, from the most useless things like sending my clothes for dry cleaning. It could be, or let's say, really fun things like bringing my family on a family date, planning birthday for my kid. And then it goes to the very high level tasks like, what is the capital we want to put aside for our new venture, right? Career progression, bonus structure, every single thing we actually jot it down. When I jot it down and I look at it like that, we look at what is critical and what's not critical. And then you start to ask yourself what's most important to you. So priority management as well. So I don't necessarily write like a whole gratitude journal. I know some people do that. I don't. There's no reason why I don't. It's just that I rather spend my time working on the action-driven things and making sure that I'm constantly decluttering, because every decluttering, I'm actually moving towards my goal. That's how I have done it right now at this point of time.
I see. Just to share, I journal nowadays, Shannon, and I do a small little gratitude segment for myself. I think for me, especially, people are always hardest on themselves, right? Maybe on the very surface layer, we don't show this. Yeah, we don't share this special with ourselves. So I find that it's been very helpful for me when I journal down why am I grateful for myself. I'm grateful for myself for waking up early in the morning, going to work out, meditating for maybe 10-20 minutes and stuff like that. Then from there, my accomplishments. And I think for me as well, I just want to digress into this topic a little bit. I find it very helpful for people if they want to try this practice is I reflect on my day and I be as honest, brutally honest about my feelings, right? Of what went through my mind throughout the entire day as well. I acknowledge and I understand why I feel this way. How can I stop myself from feeling this way, right? Instead, and reframe the mindset of how am I seeing the problem that made me feel on a negative level. Yeah. So okay, that's a sharing about my own gratitude practice. I want to go a little bit more about the part where you mentioned you have one big goal, Shannon. So I think it's something that I've been reflecting on as well. In the past, I used to set multiple goals for myself, right? I want to meditate like 30 minutes a day. I want to go to work out early in the morning. I want to quit nicotine. I used to be a big nicotine addict. I want to grow my business by 3 times. I want to do so many things at once. Yeah, so my question for you here, right, Shannon, do you think it's better for you to have multiple goals or just one singular goal where you can be 100% focused on?
I think to accomplish one big goal, it will also always break into multiple different small goals. So if your goal doesn't need to be broken into multiple different small goals, then your goal isn't big enough. Like waking up 30 minutes a day. This is not a goal, that's a task. That's a routine, right? Like working out 3 times a week. Okay, that's a routine, right? But in order for you to be at the peak performance, maybe being able to drive 2 times an output with less amount of time, you need to have a great routine in health. You need to have a great routine in time. You need to have a great routine in sleep, right? So personally, I subscribe to one big goal, but I have business goal and then I have my personal goal, obviously because I run the business. So I also encourage people to have a personal goal as well as a career goal. Whether is it they are entrepreneur, whether is it that they're climbing the ladder, I think it's just important to have a personal in terms of your life goals and in terms of your career financial goals, because a lot of people are still chasing the financial and it's still important to chase the financial.
Cool. I think for yours it's a little bit more interesting, right, Shannon? You have a full family, you have to take care of them, you need to manage your finances there, your investments, your business. If I'm not mistaken, I think you told me before you have multiple businesses that you're handling right now. To me, I think that's kind of like insane now. One business for me is quite overwhelming already. Yeah. So curious, right, Shannon? You set business goals. We set business goals together. You set it for us. You set the overall direction. We set our own KPIs, right? Yeah, but let's say you are a business owner right now. You want to hit $1 million. You are at 6 figures. How would you set your goals to make sure that you are able to hit them?
First of all, know your numbers from the past. I think that a big part of your last year leaves a lot of clue. So a lot of business owners, when they plan for the coming year, we spend most of our time thinking about what can we do differently, But there's 2 parts to it. First, you have your goal, but before you know first you have your goal, next you look at your numbers in the past. What are the things in terms of matrix that's already doing well, that is already healthy, that you do not need much changes on and it should stay the same? What is the cash cow that you have in your business that should stay the same? What is the things that's not doing well that you need to cut away, right? What's the things that there's certain gaps and, is limiting your growth for the coming year? Right? Whether is it in system, whether is it in people, whether is it in your plan, right? The last year leaves a lot of clue for success, right? Which is typically coming from our failures. So I think the first thing is actually having the goal. The second thing is to look back to your numbers and see what were the clues that it left you and retain the things that's working and look at how to optimize the things that's not working. And next thing is not do an overhaul. Like I think when we do an overhaul of things that we are uncomfortable about, we're not sure if it will work, we're actually exposing ourselves with a lot of risk. I mean, you have a tendency to do an overhaul, right? Where you're like, when there's certain things not going well, okay, I need to change everything, right? For me, you have noticed in our counter arguments with each other, I say take a step back. I don't think you need to change everything. What's that one small thing we need to change that can still use the thing that you have created? So yeah.
So it's like looking for key levers in the business, right? That you can leverage on to bring you exponential results. Is that it?
Step 1, have the goal. Step 2, you need to have the past. Step 3, you have to know where you want to go and why you want to do that. Because where you want to head towards in the long term might be completely different from what you're doing in the short term. Now, in the long term, of course, I want to go into the whole wellness space, right? And I want to be able to have multiple different businesses where my different business leaders are leading different things. That has been my goal for the past, different business leaders leading different things. It's always been my goal for the past, I say 5 years. And I'm always in the constant pursuit of that. And the revenue goals is just kind of like a short-term goals for me every single year because it's 1 year. 1 year is short-term, right? And then the long-term is the vision to be able to have these people run their shifts, multiple different business, giving me different sorts of income, and also being able to create different sorts of big income for my leaders. That's always the vision. So based on that, then every year we have to look into who are the people that is the long-term people that I can work with. Who are the people that is the long-term people that I can trust? Who are the people that I need to bring on board to be able to make sure that the long-term people get stronger, bigger, better, Not sure if you really exactly answered the question, but at this point of time, when I do my goal planning, it's not so much to the minute task anymore because the business has grew to a size where it's not necessarily the micro tasks. The micro tasks are handled by the leaders, right? I look at the big picture. I look at the people. I look at the plan, right? I look at the timeline. I look at the bottom line. I look at the budgeting, right? Like a blueprint, like how we scale this company from 0 to 15 million, right? Before I even started it, I already had a blueprint. So this blueprint was from January to December every single month, right? What is the targeted people that shows up in our webinar? What is our, upsells? What is our conversion point? What is our drop-off rate? What is our hiring in phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4? What is our culture, our momentum, right? What is the roles for each of the departments? Before I even started the company back then with my partner, I have everything drawn out. So I don't know whether that's considered goal setting, but rather business planning.
I think it ties in together because right now what you do for your goal setting is you set a revenue target that you really want to hit, right? Then you break it down into layers. Our layers in short is the month-on-month execution and what's required of this month-on-month execution to be able to contribute towards a big picture goal that we set for ourselves. Then from there, you keep it accountable on a monthly basis. Is that how you have been doing it for the past business? Just to clarify, because I would say that this is more action plan. Yeah.
I find objective key results it is a very effective way for any entrepreneurs to plan their business. Objective key result is used by, I believe, from Google and many other big companies. They use the OKR. So OKR is the short form. So essentially, let's say I want to bring a company to, say, 5 million. So I say this year goal is 5 million, for example. And in order to hit that 5 million, there needs to be indicator of key others. There is going to be other goals that's going to make up that 5 million. Like, for example, how many high-ticket clients of XXX that they have to be, that they have to hit this year. For example, it could be how many acquisition of leads into the company's list. That's going to be important. So it's not just about the money. It's also about the leads acquisition, right? And then it's also about what constitutes positioning, right? Positioning, it could be content, right? Is there any kind of, we want to reach how many millions views in terms of, let's say, awareness and positioning. And then you have to go into, for example, a operational side, right? To be able to effectively hit let's say XXX satisfaction in customer service. So the OKR framework is one big goal split into 3 to 5 different goals. That 3 to 5 different goals is split to key OKR leaders, the people who hit one of the goals each, right? Based on the goal that we have set from each, let's say we have chosen the leader to actually lead that goal, then we will also get the leader to write the next 3 to 5 goals that is going to be accountable maybe by the various department that is actually under that goal. Because in that goal, maybe you don't need everybody to be involved, right? You need maybe like cross-department, right? So you find OKR framework is very good when you are in a company that do a lot of cross-department projects. So maybe this project that involves ops and sales only, then so it's ops and sales. If this project involves marketing and the speaker, so then you'll be the marketing and the speaker, right? So on and so forth. And then from there on, the monthly check-in, the weekly check-in. So with our mentees, we have this finance overview board that they must fill if they want to meet me, right? Like a part of the mandatory is to actually look at the numbers for me to actually look at where they are at. So the numbers tells the truth. Every single month, I get the account, send me the numbers. I put it in an overview. I know how the health went. Do I need to increase overhead? Do I need to reduce overhead? So for all the business owners out there, have a framework to guide you. Some people use business waterfall planning. Some people use OKR. I personally advocate for OKR. You have used OKR as well. So, yep.
I like the system. Okay, so Shannon, I think this part-wise, you talk about key leaders to lead your OKRs for you. I mean, certain OKRs for you based on different departments, right? So, just curious, is there a reason why you make us OKR holders, us leaders, right, actually come up with our OKRs on our own?
Is to be able to evaluate the caliber of the person that I'm working with as well. You see, my end goal is always to have leaders that can steer their own ships, right? So how do you have a testing opportunities to see where they are in their thought process and how good are their planning? If you don't have a good plan, you also plan to fail, right? So getting the leaders to actually plan their OKR, it's a demonstration of where they are at and where they can be. So it's not so much of, I can take over the planning, but it's also an opportunity to mentor and train. There's no other way that any business owner can be working on the business if you don't have leaders that can work on the business. So part of it is using that as also a mentoring opportunity. It's a deliberate attempt to train people to be higher level. Yeah, that's my objective.
Okay, cool. Is it also, just to explore a little bit further, because I find that happened for me. When I set my own goals, right, I have ownership over it.
Yeah.
I set these goals, I have to hit it, right? It's not as if somebody come to me and say that, Kwan, you need to be able to hit X amount of stuff. It's also part of this, is it? It's because of the ownership that you want to instill into each particular leader. Then you keep them accountable from there. Hey, I didn't tell you that you need to hit this goal. You are the one who said that you will hit it for me.
Yes, mentoring opportunity, ownership, also self-awareness. In order for anybody to be a great leader, they need to be able to achieve self-awareness, right? From the self-awareness, then there comes, do they want to be in this role? Do they think they're suitable for this role? What should be the next steps? Who should be taking over this role, right? There's too many reasons why we need the leaders to plan their goals instead. But we also must be ready to step in and do an overhaul on the goal if we notice that it is not on the right track. Because at the end of the day, my husband likes to say, you're the boss, right? He always say that if you see someone is not going the way that it should be going, you need to take over and you need to tell them exactly how you want it, right? So the interesting thing is I reflected back last year, what can I do better? And what is sucking up my money and time in business? So that was a question that I was reflecting on. And because my goal was, how can I double my output with the same amount of time? So that means that I have to think out of the box on the mistakes that I shouldn't make again this year. I think the first revelation is, if I could have just spent more time discussing on one complex project with this specific person and lay down exactly my expectation and exactly the steps and the structure that I would have loved for it to be implemented and actually set the deadlines, etc. as myself, and have the right reporting for them to show me, I would have wasted less time and money. Because it's either we have more time at the start that we spend with a person and they will make less mistakes, which will require less time to work with them in the future, right? Last year, I did the reverse because we hired a lot of people, obviously, you know, right? So we trust that the people in the role will know exactly what to do. But then I realized that there's a difference in perspective sometimes, and there's a difference in experience. I mean, I have 10 years of experience, and these people is like maybe less than 1-2 years in our company. So I think that was the biggest mistake that I made. So this year, I changed a little bit. You know, that's why I set into meetings. I tell HR exactly how I want things to be done. I took over finance in terms of laying down the SOPs. So the next candidate can just take over and do exactly what we needed to be done, because then you wouldn't be sucked into, I would say, your time wouldn't be sucked up in the future. It's more preventive.
Shannon, I think when it comes by to goals, one of the things that you've set for me, I tend to set a bit more conservative goals for myself. Like maybe increase revenue by 100, 200K above of what we've been getting already. My partial, marginal, 10%, 20% year-on-year growth. To me, that is something that's sustainable. But I think something that I really appreciate you for is you always constantly challenge my expectations. Like you tell me to aim higher, aim higher, aim higher. Yeah, and I see you doing that for your mentees as well. I think the crazy thing is that we always somehow manage to hit it. And even if the shortfall is just a little bit, it's still much higher than our initial expectations that we set for ourselves. So Shannon, I'm very curious, right? How scary should a goal actually be when we are setting up something, right, to challenge ourselves?
The benefits of setting a goal with between me and you is that you have someone that's pushing you. So which goes back to the person who set a big goal has an accountability partner that they can be accountable to. Because most people lose accountability as time goes by because nobody knows about your goal, right? And hence you'll be like, oh, it's okay if I change my goal. I can change this. It's not important. Life gets in the way. It's not my fault. It's this, it's that, you know? The reason why I always pushed, but I'm also pretty realistic. You know, I'm not as I used to be. I think I toned down a lot. So the goals that I set for you this year is actually backed by opinions that think that those goals are valid. So I always look at the people where, you know, you could, as you know, I sign consultants and I sign people to work with our team to upskill ourselves, right? And I always ask the question first, say, what do you think about the goals? What would you have set, right? So cumulatively, then I'll get what we call an intuitive answer from, you know, a key individuals who are actually hitting the goal or people who have experienced hitting the goals before. And from there on, we set what we call a realistic and challenging goal, which is the, you know, big, hairy, audacious goal, right? If it's just 10, 20, 30%, it's never a big, hairy, audacious goal when you know it could have been further. And also, plus you know that I have scaled businesses to 15 million before. And I understand the potential and the opportunity if things are done right. Pushing yourself to hit a goal that is bigger is also a compliment that number one, I think you can do it. Number two is also, I believe that you can be out of the box. That means some form of breakthrough and transformation must occur within the way that you function and the way that you think to be able to reach that goal. And if you can reach that goal, you reach your financial goal. And I know what your financial goal is, right? So I'm holding you accountable rather than anything else. That's how I think.
I love that. Yeah, I see. Big, heavy, audacious goal. That actually that reminds me. It's a book from Built to Last, right? James Collin. I think I read it when I was a lot younger. Yeah, but it's a very, very powerful thing. I think it's like you set high expectations for yourself. You set big goals. You challenge yourself. It excites you. If it's going to be a little bit more underwhelming, I think what I've noticed is that people get a bit more demotivated. Like it's not really that important to me. It doesn't really excite me anymore. It doesn't challenge me. Yeah, I feel that's why when I notice when you set high expectations, right, you tend to hit it a little bit better, especially if it's not too overwhelming with so many different goals at once. So on the topic of accountability partner, right, you mentioned this. Let's talk about listeners who might not have the privilege of getting consultants like what you mentioned, who might not be getting consultants, coaches to be able to guide them, to keep them accountable for. What is the next best alternative for them, right, to keep themselves accountable?
So I think one of the very useful accountability partners has a few ways. Number one, personally, my husband is my accountability partner, but I understand some people don't have the most support and the most suited partner to be the partner in life as well, you know. I think anybody who is supportive of your dreams and is your cheerleader, right, are someone that is someone that is suitable to be your accountability partner. However, most people are driven by pain than pleasure. So a great way is to place a bet big enough that you want to hit your goal. So me and my friend Kennedy back then, we used to have this bet. He wanted to lose weight. So I think it's along the line like, he have to pay me 2,000, assuming if he doesn't lose weight by when, you know? And he did exactly that. He completely lost his weight because there's no way he wants to pay that 2,000 to me. I even put it in the calendar. When the time is right, I'm gonna ask him to pay the money, right? So it's driven by pain. You gotta make some funny or humorous bet or that you're never gonna want to do it. That makes you want to do it as well. Yeah.
I see where you're coming from. I think one of the key things that my friend, right, I really, really appreciate him. But when I wanted to go to the gym, we are supposed to be like gym buddies and stuff like that. But then over time, like, narratives start getting into the head. We become a little bit more lazy. Then we start giving excuses. I think one of the key things, as much as I do love him so very much, right, he would tell me like, it's okay. Are you okay? Is everything good? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. In the end, because of there's no real accountability towards it, right? No hard conversations. There's a lot more appreciation when it comes by say, Guan, you set this goal for yourself. I think this is something that you told me that you are extremely serious about. But what's happening here? You know what I mean? It's going to be a lot more powerful as compared to the coddling that happened around that kind of accountability stuff. Of course, a lot of things happen within ourselves.
Exactly,
Yeah,
and,
please.
and it's something that we do oftenly in the company, right? I mean, in my experience of how I've been working with many of the leaders that in our company. If there's anything that I felt that was wrong, that was off, rather than we waiting till that whole performance review and kind of thing, we just click the call, we get on the call together, and we simply shoot our mom and say, okay, particularly to this incident, I don't think it was done the way it should be. I think there's something that's going on, what's happening, right? Solving the issue there and then and now, it's very important, which is part of accountability, which is part of coaching. Precisely because most people doesn't have a coach or accountability partner, a great leader is someone that can hold the leaders accountable as well. And as an entrepreneur, sometimes we don't spend enough time with the people that we want them to do more. And as a result, they don't actually grow and blossom. So I do encourage entrepreneurs to actually spend a lot more time with the people that they want to groom, not on the micro tasks, but on the mindset.
I see. So what you're saying is that accountability not only works on a lateral level, it also works downwards and upwards as well, is it? Yeah, because downwards you manage your team member, you keep them accountable, you check in with them, you make sure that they follow their goals. Accountability on the lateral level, you motivate each other, give each other support, and at the same time have hard, radical, transparent conversations with each other to make sure that everybody is kept aligned. Is that what you mean?
Not so much of there's only a limit on how many people we can really watch at one time. So I think the right way is more like I only work mostly with the leaders. As far as selected individuals that maybe I want to groom. And when we talk to these people, we don't look at the task that they do, we look at the performance of the team. So we look at the performance of the team and we look at the performance of their work and we look at how good their planning was and how reflective that they were. A very self-aware and reflective person that we work with moves very fast because they know exactly how to move, what to do, and what they did wrong. So a big part of it is to cultivate self-awareness, reflection, and learnings from their own mistakes by themselves. And when they realize that, because a lot of people say, I didn't hit it because my team is this, my team is that. It's not so true, right? You pick the team. Right? You are ownership for the team. So it's to make sure that we send that messaging to the leaders that we're actually training.
Yeah. Leaders hold the most responsibility. I think that's something I learned over the years. Yeah, so much. You have to manage the team. Yeah, there's so much that goes on. So on that topic, right, Shannon, since people like people like a lot of business owners out there, they hold so much responsibility, sometimes it can be a bit more overwhelming, right? Yeah, how would you counteract the idea of like negative thinking and mental health? You know what I mean? Mental problems, for example, like it gets a bit more depressive, it gets a bit more tiring. Yeah, after a day-to-day waking up, all this kind of stuff.
I see a lot of high achiever burning out, and all these people share the same pattern. And I've been there, but I've stopped that pattern. Not taking their health seriously, not taking their social seriously, not building meaningful connection, basically eating well, sleeping well, moving well, and having enough connections and hobby that their life doesn't revolve around work. Because high achievers, they're so obsessed. A lot of these high achievers that burn out, and in my experience, I used to be like this as well. It's so obsessed with our work. all day, all night, and we cook ourselves reasons to tell ourselves why we're this way, I have no time to meet my friends because I'm too busy with work. I have no time to do this because I'm too busy with that. I have no time to eat well because I have to work till late night. These are all reasons. And those were my reasons. And these are my reasons that stop me from truly becoming the best that I can be. I'm in the fittest, peak performance stage in terms of mental, where I am at right now. That's why sometimes people see the schedule that I have, they say unbelievable, right? But the reason is because I took care of my health. I sleep well, right? I eat well and I plan well. And I never ever let things that I can't control to take over my mental space. And when it's time to switch off, I have forced myself to switch off. Sometimes when you're your kids and you're thinking about work, you're not there with your kids. And if you're not there with your kids, your partner is upset. And when your partner is upset, it's not in harmony anymore. So being able to be so-called in balance is to make sure the other pillars of your life is very well taken care of, and they will take care of you. When I take care of my family, they take care of me. When I take care of my friends, they take care of me. When I take care of my health take care of me, right? It's the biggest shift that I've made in my life over the past 1.5 years, and it was tremendous for getting me back into the zone postpartum, and also leading the team that we have now. And the same thing I said to the team over and over again.
Yeah. Something that you have always reiterated to me. I think I have this problem, right, Shannon, you mentioned to me. I get, it's an idea of priorities here, you know what I mean? I prioritize work sometimes to the point where everything else doesn't really matter, especially, right? And this, I think, is going to relate towards a lot of business owners, where we take our goals seriously, but we don't hit them. And as it reaches the deadline, it becomes all that we think about. We obsess over that particular metric. How are we able to do? So then I want to talk a little bit more about visualization practice as well, right? Because what happens to me is the closer I get to the deadline, I start visualizing how would I actually feel like if I fail? You know what I mean? How much will it hurt?
You're driven by
then
pain.
It becomes
That's
a
different.
bit more...
That's different. You're driven by pain. And there's two types of people. Some people break under pressure. Some people thrive under pressure. You thrive under pressure. You're like that boiler room concept where, if I blow a torch at you and I wanna and I put you under a high intensity heat, you will then transform and then you will then have your breakthrough, because you're someone who, when you hit that point when, let's say for example, now you have meditation, right? You can go to a point whereby you bring yourself back to balance. It's a bit different now. You're just someone who's very driven by pain. If I say pleasure, actually it doesn't really motivate you as much. So you just found a way for yourself to motivate yourself. In my perspective, of course there's always many other better ways, but it's always a constant search based on the understanding of yourself.
I see. Yeah, so that comes to the question here, Shannon, you know what I mean? Like, there's priorities, there's obsession, and when all of these things come into play, right, how do you actually spend time? Like, if you're so obsessed towards a particular goal, how do you make sure you're balanced enough to take care of the other facets of your life, like mental health, your family, all these kind of things, when this is your sole priority right now?
I have figured it out. I am very happy to say that, but it took a year. For anybody that's watching the podcast all the way to the end, okay? If you're someone who's obsessed about work or like achieving in business and all that, and you want to maintain in balance, here's what you do. You plan all the things that is in health, in family time, in relationship, with friends, everything in the calendar first. So we do the opposite. A lot of people tend to do business planning first. For me, I don't do that first. So I sit down with my family and I sit down with my personal trainer. I say, okay, personal trainer, what is that 3 times a week that I can commit to based on this year's schedule? Let's lock it down. So I'll lock my time down for gym, and that never changed. That becomes a routine. Number 2, I put drop my kid in school, pick her up from school every day in my calendar, Monday to Friday. The whole company can see it. It's half an hour. I pick her, I come back. I pick her and I come back, right? It's in my calendar. That's my job as a mom, right? Number 3, my non-negotiable off days. Well, although my off days still get a lot of interruption at this point, but it's much lesser if I didn't plan for the off day. So I always plan my other one in a weekday, right? One in a weekend, right? And then why is because our team doesn't work on obviously Saturday, Sunday. So one of my work day is Sunday, and that is my planning day. So in my calendar, I call it a momentum planning. So this is full on reflection. This is full on planning, right? And I don't need to work with anybody. I just get to work on myself, right? It's also very important. Then I also planning my trips for the year. This year we're going to Egypt. We're going to bring my family to Taiwan. Me and my husband is going to Japan ourselves. We are going to, of course, there's the work trips. I have a girls trip with Mel. I'm going to Korea. So that's my connection with my friends that I love, that I care about, and I make time, So putting the people that matters in the calendar first. And then I also start planning my date nights by a quarter. So the next thing I'm going to implement is to buy all my monthsary presents maybe a quarter in advance, and then I just like systemize.
Don't have to think about it anymore. It's done.
I plan my dates and I book down the dinners, every month when I sit down and I'll plan my January and my February. So a lot of people say, oh, I like to go with the flow. No shit, I love to go with the flow as well, but it doesn't work for me. If you want to accomplish things when you're a mom, you have a role to play in the family, you're so accountable to so many people, and you have big things you want to do, you gotta have routine and you gotta have structure. I used to be a believer of flow, but screw that, I can't, right? So I accepted the fact and I made it a routine. So every single thing else is taken care of, and they will take care of me. So my husband takes care of me, and he's a sweetheart. And also he can see my dedication to my family. So I thought that was a very useful thing that I do this year. I plan my trip for the year in advance. Nobody can say I didn't let them know in advance.
Yeah, so you prioritize planning out all of the other facets of your life first, right? Before your business goals. Whatever time left that you have is business.
Because whatever time left that you have on hand, you have to make do with it. Our brain works in a way that we will fit our things we want to accomplish to the mold that we have. So if the mold that we have, which is maybe 4 hours a day, and you want to accomplish those so-called things that you want to accomplish, you will figure a way out. Whether it's hiring more people, whether it's delegation, whether it's smarter with time, whether it's outsourcing JVs, we will think out of the box to reach there. But if you think you have a lot of time in the world to all do all these things and then you get nothing done. So I believe, and I'm a firm believer of capping myself nowadays, because my key goal is to double my output with the same amount of time or smaller amount of my time that I have and I spend on my business. Because I believe when you set the right goal, you will gear your changes towards that goal. But I'm a little bit obsessed with because I want to be a good mom. I want to be a good entrepreneur. I want to be a good leader. I want to be a good business owner. I want to be everything, and I think I can have it all.
I think everybody wants that, but it's who's really willing to sacrifice and make sure that they do all the work needed, right, to be somebody like
tough
that.
Shit. Tough
you know
shit.
What I mean?
Not gonna lie, it's tough shit. But it's either you give reasons or you show up and you be who you want to be. And I think it's about, if this is what you truly want to be, then you become that. You give no reasons, and then you will evolve. You don't evolve and you don't transform under reasons. You transform under feedbacks and actions.
Yeah, I love this. So yeah, going back on to all this, Shannon, I think we share a lot of valuable gems in terms of how to set goals, the kind of practices that we use, how to be able to take care of ourselves at the same time when we are setting audacious goals for the business, for ourselves and the company that we are working with. So with all that said, right, can you do a recap in terms of everything that we've been talking about to make sure that the business owners and people who are listening to this have key actionable steps, right, that they can easily follow at the end of the session?
I think first of all, always set a big, hairy, audacious goal. Following the book Scaling Up, they talk a lot about the big, hairy, audacious goal. And then number 2, adopt an OKR framework. Read up on it. There's a lot of readings on OKR, objective key result. Have that one big goal, split to the 3-5 goals. From the 3-5 goals, set it to your monthly, your weekly, And then you can decide, do you need to hire? Do you need to bring in people? Do you need to get a consultant, right? Next thing, your life works in pillars, right? So in pillars, that means that if you can take care of the rest of the things will take care of you, right? Especially those of us who have family, right? Or you have lovers in your life that you need to be accountable for, right? Or your parents that you have to be accountable for. Plan them in first because they're number one. No amount of money will be more important than the people that you love, right? So plan them in first, and then the rest of the time that we have is what we can creatively create the same amount of output or more output with that time that we have cordoned off. 6 hours, 8 hours a day, 7 hours a day, we can do a lot of things, but time management, right? So I think it's also about for entrepreneurs out there, when you want to be able to groom leaders to take over you, then the question is how much time we are also spending with them. Because in order for a flower to blossom, we need the right resources, we need the right fertilizers, we need the right watering, you need the right environment, you need the right sun. So I think grooming a person to take over you is also the same philosophy. We need to spend a lot of the time on that. Lastly is also to plan and reflect constantly. Because if you can plan and reflect, that is perfect. To hit your goals, always look into setting the goal, going back to the past, looking at the clues, and then also being able to find out what are things that should not change, and the things that should be changed, don't do an overhaul. Optimize the whole process, and then have new R&D that you're going into. I think that sums up the things that we have talked about today. I hope I get everything.
Yeah, I love your memory. Yeah, guys, she's doing this based on memory alone. I just want to say that. Yeah, but Shannon, overall, thanks for doing this. I think what you're doing here, especially you as a person, is a lot. It's amazing for somebody at your age, you know what I mean? So really, respect for all that you do, and thank you for coming onto this podcast with me.
Thank you for pushing me. I think for those of you here, if you have any specific topics that you like to hear more about, or you want to pick our brains on, or you want to have table discussion about, like for us to discuss about the topic, please, comment down in wherever that you can comment here. Okay, I don't know where this will be published, but comment down so we actually will read through the topics, and then we will see, that will be part of the topics that we have. Okay, that's all from me. I look forward to seeing everyone again.
Yeah, some systems that we'll be talking about, there's some things that we'll be covering about, right? Is scaling systems, phases of a business over a 365-day period, you know what I mean? Like how you plan out your phase by phase. Yeah, what kind of bottom line you need to see inside your business, right? Is it revenue or is it profit margins? Which one do we really deal with? What's the best way to delegate, and how to be a business owner and achieve work-life balance at the same time? So the things that we'll be talking a lot about, right? It's about the business world, on the skills that's needed to really achieve success in the business world as well. So yeah, if that's something that you like, please subscribe to all our social media channels in the comments or description below. Yeah, cool.